Today, once more, they will replenish themselves, cheat death again, through the power of their source.
Matt Stone, 180degreehealth.com.
Hey, what's going on, 180 peeps? This is Matt Stone from 180 Degree Health, and I am wanting to talk a little bit about Phil Campbell's Ready, Set, Go. This is going to be backwards looking at the cover, Ready, Set, Go, but this is his book. Basically, it's primer on exercise, and of course he talks a lot about the type of exercise that he advocates the most and that he's done a lot of research on, which is sprinting, or doing sprint interval type of training. It's very similar to what most people think when they think of high-intensity interval training, but he's really looking at doing it with maximum speed and sprint fashion, whether that be on an exercise bike or elliptical machine, even swimming in a pool. Anything that you're doing basically as quickly as you can, he defines as a sprint, and says that this activates a lot of fast-twitch muscle fibers and all kinds of good stuff like that. He's all about well-rounded fitness. As you can see in the pictures, here's him doing some karate kicks and stuff. But you can tell just by looking at him, the dude is pretty much a badass. He's in his 50s, and it's kind of funny reading this book because I had a sort of a flashback into my past. He's kind of a southern boy, and in the South, everything revolves around athletics. So there's all this talk about NFL combines and running the 40-yard dash and all these kind of things. And it was just reminiscent of all those years that I spent really focusing on these types of training and things like that. Anyways, I've advocated openly a couple of different forms of training, and I haven't said, oh, do this, it'll magically do everything you ever could imagine, including pay off your taxes and clean your house. But I've said that these forms of exercise, at least in theory, are fundamentally sound. And I think one is doing the really low volume type of weight training, single set with high intensity, and also the high intensity interval training. I do believe if you're looking to get some kind of substantial results and some kind of a hormonal improvement or change or adaptation, the exercise needs to be at high intensity. And of course he talks about that a lot in the book, and I totally agree with that. Of course, it really depends upon metabolically what you can handle, what your threshold is. A lot of people, they go and do this type of exercise and it completely ruins them. And it's something that you should probably build up to, no matter who you are, over a period of, I don't know, at least a month, maybe 2 months, maybe even longer than that, before you actually build up to fully doing this type of exercise if you are coming from total sedentarism. Anyway, there's a couple things I wanted to talk about the book. The book itself, he really talks about various forms of exercise. So he's talking about, do some kind of sporting type activity, do your stretching, do your cardio, do your weights, and it's overwhelming because you really see that the amount of exercise that he's advocating doing is a tremendous amount. And he's probably right for overall fitness, physique, functionality, keeping limber, and having really healthy aging and being able to do anything physically, even when you get to be his age in the 50s. It's probably true. You probably do need to spend a lot of time doing a wide variety of activities. I agree with that. But we're in a situation, I believe, where we have a lot of people who are in really bad metabolic shape, and I'm not so certain that they have the kind of resiliency of somebody like Phil Campbell. He strikes me as somebody with this, very good dentition and wonderful heredity, like other, gurus out there. Paul Chek is one that comes to mind, who looked like a friggin' bodybuilder at age 12, who just have these natural genetics with an exceptional capacity to recover. And that's always the big thing that breaks people and sends them over into the area of overtraining and slows down the metabolism, exposes them to an amount of stress that they can't recover from, and that actually breaks them down. What separates somebody like Phil Campbell from what I feel is more of a normal person is his exceptional capacity to recover. So I wouldn't necessarily, and of course Phil is working with a lot of professional athletes, high school athletes, things like that, working on their sprint training. So I do believe that his perception of what is, of some of these things is probably a little bit skewed. I don't know what his experience is with dealing with people with really complex, metabolic messes and things like that, the type of people that manage to find me on the internet. But I think in all the things that Phil Campbell advocates, and all the things in the research that he brings up, the most interesting and controversial, and something that makes me very uncertain, is he talks about growth hormone. Everything is growth hormone, growth hormone, growth hormone. And we know that growth hormone is something that's stimulated, that's secreted by the pituitary gland under great stress. So if you do something that really gets your adrenaline cranking and cranking and cranking, you secrete more growth hormone in response to that. And this is what he's after. This is the change that he's looking for. So with this very high, intense exercise that brings you to the point of feeling like you might vomit or pass out or both, you're getting this big growth hormone release. And on top of that, I think the most controversial thing he says is you don't want to eat any carbohydrates for at least 2 hours after the workout. Now, everything we know about exercise and post-workout nutrition and things like that is you should eat a lot of carbohydrates after the workout period to help stop this cascade of stress hormones and start reloading your system with carbohydrates, reloading your glycogen, and effectively shutting down the stress response in the stress system. He is talking about trying to keep that going, and it acknowledges that recovery will suffer by not eating carbohydrates during the first 2 hours. But, don't worry about that because you get all this growth hormone in there. And that's something that concerns me, knowing that adrenaline is what increases the secretion of the growth hormone, and that carbohydrates are the best thing, of course, to shut down adrenaline and shut down the stress response. So it's kind of an interesting paradox, I guess you could say, and it's something I'm certainly not so sure about. I mean, I on the one hand, I agree with the principles of it, and yes, people as they age, they reduce their production of growth hormone, which has some negative consequences. If you raise that growth hormone, they seem to get a lot of body composition improvement, more lean mass, less body fat, and some of that anti-aging kind of stuff, maybe tightening of the skin or just a younger appearance in the face, all those different kind of things. So maybe, I don't know, I'm undecided about this, but I certainly feel cautious about the idea that, it's really stressful to do this type of exercise, and stress is a good thing, and you should actually avoid carbohydrates so that you can keep that stress going as long as possible and get the most growth hormone secretion out of it. Maybe that's taken a little bit too far, and maybe that is an overly myopic view or an overly narrow focus on just growth hormone, as if no other hormones existed within the body. Anyway, that's kind of my feelings about Phil Campbell's advocacy towards growth hormone and his type of exercise. I do it myself. I haven't been doing it for the last few months, as I've been sort of on a Morgan Spurlock type of experiment. But I've been reincorporated it lately, and it's very difficult, but I do seem to get a lot of fitness improvement out of it. I feel pretty good. It doesn't adversely affect my body temperature in any way or anything like that. And I do get the body composition improvements out of it. So whatever. It's an interesting thing to think about. I wouldn't say that you'll be magically intellectually stimulated beyond your wildest dreams by reading Phil Campbell's Ready, Set, Go, but it is very motivational. It has a lot of pictures of really old people doing really young type of things, sprinting and throwing javelins and things like that. I don't know. I wouldn't say that I recommend it, but I did want to give you guys a little commentary on it in case you were curious about the book itself. And I think Phil Campbell's here to stay, and some of his ideas are going to affect the way that we perceive and look at exercise in the next couple of decades. And it'll be interesting to see how all this pans out, but I'd love to hear some of your experiences with this type of exercise, this sprint interval training or high intensity interval training, or whatever you want to call it. Anyways, leave some comments. Let me know what you think about this type of training. I will catch you guys for a new video every Wednesday and Saturday right here on the 180 Degree Health YouTube channel. Bye-bye.
Subscribe to the 180 Degree Health channel now, or you will be abducted by lesbian Nazi hookers from outer space and forced into a weight loss program.
It doesn't matter what you had for lunch.